Hello and welcome to Game Brigade. My name is Brian, and today I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about board games that I would love to see in movies of some sort. And this was kind of inspired because of this game, Alice is Missing. Today we got a notification that this board game, RPG game, by Renegade has been picked up for movie rights. And I thought that was super cool. This little niche Kickstarter, just super small game, now has generated enough interest that there are movies potentially going to be made about it. You know, we'll see. Producing a movie is a lot more work than you'd think. So I gathered, I was going to say 10 games, but it's way more than 10 games. Not way more, but you know how it goes when you make a list. You start pulling things off the shelf, and also you have more than 10 games. And I kind of made them in messy piles here, so you guys couldn't be spoiled by anything. But here are my lists in no particular order of games that I would like to be seen made into a movie. So I guess starting with something like a bonus one. The Awful Green Things from Outer Space. This is a cute head-to-head game where players are either playing as the Awful Green Things or the Zunatar, I believe, as the Green Things have boarded their ship and are just wrecking havoc. And I feel like this game is an incredibly cute game, and it could be a perfect adaptation to something like in Pixar, where it could be a funny, joyful kiddie game with a lot of antics, because that's kind of the concept of this. So this was more of a bonus one, just because I love the art of this game. The Awful Green Things from Outer Space. Next is a game that I personally don't like very much, but I did enjoy what it was trying to do, and I think it would make a great potential movie or even a horror series, and that would be Betrayal on the House on the Hill, or Betrayal Legacy. You know, really more Betrayal on the House of the Hill, however you pronounce it. This is a game where players are going to be summoned to a house, and on that house it's going to be, you know, all sorts of crazy funky rooms. You got torture rooms and pillar or whatever, I don't know, pillar rooms, whatever that means. You just got a bunch of weird rooms. And eventually, one of the people that is gone is potentially going to be a traitor of some sort. And I feel like that'd be a really interesting horror movie aspect. And you could tie in the IP of the board game and make something kind of fun. There's a whole bunch of different stories that you could pull from this. I wouldn't pull from the Legacy story, because I think the Legacy story is really bad. But individually, there are stories that you can find within any of these games that I think could be a great movie at some point. Okay. All right, let's do Aeon's End. Next, I pulled off, you know what's funny is I tell myself I make it a point to place, this might be an awful idea, doing this mid-video. I try to place games so that their backs and fronts are together, but I don't know why I'm doing this mid-video. Anyways, Aeon's End. Aeon's End is a deck it's a deck building game but it's a very different deck building game where you're not going to be shuffling your deck. You just kind of play your cards, and you take your cards, and they come back into your new draw pile. And you're adding cards in from a centralized market that all the players cooperatively have access to as you try to defeat a minion of some sort. This game has a very interesting story with it, where I believe, from what I can gather from what I'm playing in the Legacy, is that the world that they live on is pretty much ravaged, and so they live underground of some sorts in a place called Gravehold. And through these portals come in these monsters, these nameless or whatever, these vicious monsters come in. So these people who are trained to channel the energy of these portals can fight back using mythic and magic. I think that could be a really cool potential idea for a movie, and I wouldn't mind seeing something come from that. So we're playing through like the Legacy right now. This is the first edition, or not first edition. This is the first version if you want to get a copy of a game. But right now we are working our way through the legacy. So let's throw that over there. Next, I wanted to pull out Seventh Continent. Again, not matching the back, but whatever. That's why I'm like, ooh, make sure I'm faced up. Seventh Continent is a game where players are going to go on an adventure to an island where they are cursed in some ways, and they are going to try to solve the riddle or solve the curse. The story of the game is that you are actually returned back home from this adventure to this island, and something is calling you back. And when you get back, you can't really remember where things were, how it was set up, and so you have to kind of bumble through things. And there's a bunch of wild different things you can encounter in this game, from like submarines that are crashed on the shore to massive cliffs. And I feel like there could be a very fun adventure movie, kind of like Indiana Jones, but less about recovering an artifact and maybe more about exploring a wild island that has a secretive thing to it. And I think Seventh Continent would be an incredibly cool movie to see. Next, I would think maybe this one. And maybe this would actually fulfill what I want the board game to do, but it doesn't because it's a Euro. And I think Scythe would be a great movie to be adapted to, or a great game to be adapted to the movies. It's already got incredible art in this post-apocalyptic, early 1900s game where kind of society has diverged, and steam and mechanical engineering has taken over. And so you have these massive robots, and it's kind of a ravaged land. And so you have a bunch of different factions fighting over, and I believe it's set in northern Russia area. And I think this would be a great game. There's potentially a lot of stories that can be made with all the different types of factions. Even the Rise of Fenris, this is what I have right here. This is the campaign that is available in the game. Even this could be the basis for the movie. So I think Scythe would make a great battle, and I would love to see just massive, kind of older mechs just battling it out. You know, we don't really get to experience that too much in the board game. It's not really a war game. It kind of tricks you in that way. So I would love to have seen it in a movie. I think that'd be super cool. Let's talk about Moonrakers. Moonrakers, also backwards on the box. Man, I'm just so bad. So I have to go like this if I want to show you. I have to like flip it up. So Moonrakers is another deck building game. This is by Ivy Studios. There are actually going to be 2 of their games on this list today. And I feel like Moonrakers, especially once we get to the next, the Kickstarter that's launching very soon, there's going to be a narrative kind of campaign, different kind of story-driven aspect to it. And I've seen some parts of it, and I feel like that'd be super cool. The story of Moonrakers right now is that you are all mercenaries and working together to accomplish different types of goals. And it's kind of a cool universe that they already have built into the system. There's actually a comic book, if you're ever interested in learning more. They actually have a Moonrakers origin comic book that they created, and could kind of give you an idea of the story that I'm referring to. And I think it would make a really cool kind of buddy up movie in space with different types of ships and technology, but also kind of implementing the story of Moonrakers. So that is there. Okay, I had this tablet here to give me like a list, and I'm not even using it. Android Netrunner. This is the only box that I have left for Netrunner. I have all the rest of the stuff in a white cardboard box for storage. So this is what you guys are going to have to do. Netrunner is a deck construction game, which means you're going to have a deck of cards you've already built from different types. Well, it depends on which side you're going to play on. We'll talk about that in a sec. As you come forward, and it's an LCG game, living card game. So that means all the sets that are released are a specific pack, and if you want to get something, you just buy those cards. In this game, there are 2 types of roles that you can play. You can play the corporation, or you can play the runner. They both play completely different. The corporation is trying to protect their secrets by placing down different types of firewalls and ice and security systems, while the runner is trying to hack their systems. And there's different types of hackers. They have brute force hackers. They've got hackers that use different types of subsystems. And so you pick of one of those 4 types of classes, and you build your deck with it. And so, and the corporations have different types of corporations that use different types of tech to defend their secrets. And it's a great little one-on-one battle. It's made in the Netrunner universe, or the Android universe, which is very similar to something like Cyberpunk or Blade Runner. So expect that kind of neon, futuristic 1980s-esque look. You know, a lot of neons and, you know, what they thought the future would be like in the 80s. And I think it would just make a really cool movie. I think the idea of the runners going against the corporations and whatnot would be really cool. Of course, you'd have to find a plot device that's not part of the game because there's really no plot to this game. But I feel like that could be easily done with a good writing team. Next, and I wondered if some people would be kind of upset about this pick. And I picked Dead of Winter. I would say that zombies were kind of... they came into a super fad, I think in like 2009, 2008. They kind of wore out their welcome by 2015. Everything was zombies. But we really haven't seen a good zombie thing in a while. There's been a few movies that have come out that are pretty good that I actually enjoy. And I think the idea of having a bunch of random group of survivors in a location in the middle of winter, which already causes its own sort of hardships, but now you're bringing on the apocalypse and you're bringing on zombies and potentially someone have ulterior motives in terms of the survival of everyone. I think that would make a really good drama with the backdrop in the zombies. And so I picked Dead of Winter because I think it could make a really cool movie. Now they have movies that are kind of like Dead of Winter, but I think with like vampires or something, but it was really cheesy and really stupid. So we're not going to talk about that one. King's Dilemma. This is a legacy campaign game where players are going to be taking on the role of heads of states that are going to be advising the king on different types of actions that are needing to be taken care of for the kingdom, which will then all have butterfly-like effects, because every decision you make is going to cause ripple effects across your country. And in the game, players are going to try to influence the vote and change how things are going to go, not just morally in the story, but also what is going to be best for their house to better their own goals. Very much a Game of Thrones like feeling when you're only dealing with the chambers with the king. I think there could be a really cool drama played around this, and even some of the situations and stories that occurred in King's Dilemma were really interesting, and I think I would love to see how that actually plays out, where maybe more of the moral aspects are challenged to players rather than just victory points, because right now it's sometimes easier to shove off the moral issues of this game just because you're chasing victory points. King's Llama was an interesting game, fun game. I think it would even make a better movie than it was a game. So there you go. Looks like we got 3 left that I've got strewn about. This is the next one. Mythic Mischief, also by Ivy Studios. This is the prototype copy, so I've got nothing on the back to show you. Mythic Mischief is a game where it's a high school with a bunch of different types of American monsters, I would say. Zombies, vampires, witches, wizards, and each of them has their own kind of social clique. Obviously, they hang out with each other as they then try to sneak into the library and try to get the other people in the other cliques or the other groups captured by the roaming librarian. And I think this would be a really cool preteen to early teen movie, comedy where kids could be part of a school, kind of like Hogwarts. You have your different school, your groups or whatever, and making the library game a central aspect, and having the librarian try to capture you, and then having some sort of deeper plot behind it that the kids have to work together at that point to uncover. I think that'd be kind of cool. I really just liked the way this game implemented different types of stories and how brought along the librarian and how you're using different spells and abilities from each group to capture each other. But I do think it would make a fun little interesting movie for kids, and I would love to have seen that done. And so Austin, if you're watching this, here you go, pitch the movie. All right, final 2. Next I have that I want to see made is Ankh, Gods of Egypt. And Ankh is a game where you are going to be taking the role of a different Egyptian god. And this is just prior to the monolithic era, where I believe they chose a single god at one point. I wish I remembered what pharaoh did that, but I can't at this point. But in this, basically the gods are fighting for the favor of the people, as well as, just in general, they want to be the best. And we haven't had a really good Egyptian based movie in a while. We had like Gods of Egypt, which did really, really awful. And so I think a movie which features each of the different types of gods kind of fighting using whatever their style of combat, I guess you would say, would be really cool. Although I could see it also flopping kind of like Gods of Egypt now I think about it. Just because it'd be probably very CGI heavy based on how these gods would be depicted. But maybe it would be cool. I don't know. I like Egypt and I like the Egyptian culture, so I think it would be really cool to feature something like that. But yeah, Ankh, Gods of Egypt. And the last one, there's actually a few ways I would like to see this movie made, and that is Root, a game of woodland might and right. Root is an incredibly cool thematic game where players are going to take on different factions of the forest. You have the birds, you've got the woodland mice and rodents, you've got the fox, you got the cats, which cats aren't really part of the woodland forest, but maybe this is happening in the behind my house, in the trees behind my house. It could easily happen. And basically, there's a whole hierarchy of different systems going on between each of these factions as they fight for dominance of the forest. And I could see this as an animated movie, very similar in art style as to how Root is done, and maybe kind of a playful battle. And then I could also see this in like a more maybe like real animal footage, obviously CG, but almost like potentially dark and gruesome and like a war movie, something that's a lot more adult rated, because that's kind of the theme that's behind this game and how mean the animals are to each other. You have the animals that are super cute, but they're being very vicious. So I think this is actually probably the best aligned for a major IP release to a movie, and I would love to see it. I think it would be super cool. So that is it. What do you guys think? Is there anything here that you guys agreed with or totally disagreed with? When I was making my list, it was very hard for me to not be like, oh, that would make a great movie. But I'm like, Brian, it's literally a movie. Like, Star Wars Outer Rim, Star Wars, or Bloodborne. I know it's not a movie, but it's basically Marvel or Dinosaur Island. I almost thought about trolling and being like, here's Dinosaur Island, where they make dinosaur embryos from amber, and they make a park, and it goes bad. It's like, I thought that'd be kind of funny, but then also kind of trolling, and who knows? But that's it. That's my list. I want to know what you guys think of this list and what movies you want to see be made from board games. Let me know in the comment section down below. Tell me how I was wrong and how you're right. This is Brian from Game Brigade. I will talk to you all very soon. Bye-bye.